don't forget to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the show. Nobody starts at the finish line. You have to start somewhere. In order for you to get to where you're going, to meet that destination, you can't think that you're going to get there instantly. Welcome to another episode of the Nothing to Something podcast, where I touch on different things, on different areas of life, on how you could go from a nothing place to a something place. And I'm not a professional, right? But as a life coach, I give my personal experiences on how you can bridge that gap. And what we're talking about today is being selfish. Why are we talking about being selfish? Why are we talking about selfishness? Because it's very important that we not only understand obviously the negative sides of it, right? But understanding the positive sides of it too. And I know that you think like positive sides of selfishness. There are no positive sides to selfishness. But hopefully after we get done with this episode, you will see and have a different perspective on selfishness in itself. Not only what it means, but what it entails. How there can be not only the negative sides of it, but also the positive sides of it. So like really understanding what's on the other side of selfishness. So first, just digging right on in there, understanding that what does selfishness even mean, right? Selfishness is lack of consideration of others. Basically, that's all it is. It's the lack of consideration of others, only really looking for selfish gain or personal profit or your own personal pleasures, right? That's what selfishness, the defined term of what selfishness is. And, again, as I said, is it bad? Like, let's ask ourselves that question. Like, is selfishness bad? Now, here's the thing. Selfishness in itself, right? When you don't add anything onto it, it can be perceived as bad, right? And obviously we know all the bad sides of selfishness. We're going to touch on it, right? You being self-absorbed, you self-centered, you're not considering other people's feelings, other people's thoughts. You want it to be your way. It ain't no other way besides your way. There's no compromise in selfishness. There's no being reasonable, right? There's no being understanding, right? There's actually no love, right? In itself, there's no love with others with selfishness in itself, right? Because what's the opposite of love? Something that I've learned is the opposite of love is actually not hate, it's selfishness. And I'm going to say that again. The opposite of love is not hate. It's selfishness. Now, why do I say that? Because when you're being selfish, remember the defined term is no consideration of others. So when you're being selfish, you are not thinking about how other people feel. You are not thinking about what other people think. You are not looking at the outcomes outside of what it can do for yourself. You are literally just considering how it is going to either make you feel good, bad, or indifferent, what you want, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And how you can get pleasure out of this, good, bad, or indifferent, or even profit, right? With no attachments, with no thought process. You are not thinking about the contingency that it can have, the catalyst of how much pain can come, the damage that can actually happen from the decisions, from your actions. You are not considering none of these things. You are not even being rational. You are being so self-absorbed, right? Being so focused on you that you have no real rationale to why you are actually doing what you're doing, because you are looking at it from the standpoint of trying to find things that is going to supplement how you actually feel. And I'm going to say that one more time. You are looking to find reasons to supplement how you actually feel. Good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay. So now we've touched on the bad side of selfishness, right? Now I'm going to touch on the good side of selfishness for a second. Now just think about this for 1 second. Is selfishness always a bad thing? And I believe that it is not. It is not always a bad thing, because if you are so focused on pouring into others, right? You are so focused into serving others. You are so focused on how you can give. What is going to happen is you're going to find yourself depleted. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You have to have a certain level of where you give attention to oneself. That way you can be of any good use and value to anyone else. You can't be of good use and or of good value to anybody else if you deplete yourself. You cannot dish out all of your energy. You cannot dish out all of your resources, because what will happen is you will find yourself in a negative deficit because you have nothing else that is filled up within your cup. You have nothing else. Everything is so much about what you're giving out, right? All the energy that you're putting out, whether it is to your family, whether it is to your spouse, whether it is to your children, whether it is to your company or your job, no matter with what it is, right? If you always continue to dish out and put the energy out, then what is going to happen is you are going to find yourself depleted when your energy sources are not recharged. And you cannot have your energy sources recharged from something or somebody else. You have to know how to put that within yourself. That way you can be your source of energy. You can be self-sufficient without relying on these other things. Because what will happen is you'll find yourself saying, oh, my energy source comes from here. But what happens when that is gone? What happens when your joy comes from somewhere else? Your happiness comes from somewhere else, something else, someone else, and it is cut off or it is stopped for whatever reason it may be. It could not necessarily be a tragedy, right? But things do happen in our lives that we have no control over. We cannot change the circumstances. There is nothing that we can do but adjust. So what I'm saying to you is you have to have a measure of time and energy that you expound into yourself. That way you can be at a certain level. Like, you want your cup to be at a certain level in order for you to be able to give to others. Like, because if you're not filled, then again, you're going to be giving people out of your want, out of your need. Like, you are in a deficit. You are at a need. So how can you go to a bank right? Just listen to me for a second. How can you go to a bank and expect them to constantly give you money if you are already at a deficit? You already have insufficient funds. It is the same thing when it comes to our mental, our emotional, and even our physical, even our spiritual, our financial. All of those different areas, we have to be at a certain place first before we can even give to anybody else, to anything else. And if you don't do the necessary steps in order for you to get your place value or your cup to be at a certain place, then you will constantly be at a deficit. You'll be what people tend to say, robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? You don't want to do that. So that's one of the positive sides of selfishness, is you have to take time out to actually spend time with you, know the things that you want, know the things that you need, and continue to help people from that place. You can't give to somebody. You can't help somebody from something that you don't have yourself. That is not possible. And understand that nobody is going to go to someone who they know don't have what it is that they need. Like, just for a second, if you had a friend who you know just told you they do not have any money, would you still turn around and ask them for $20? $20 ain't that much money, right? But if they just said that they don't really have no money, then you already know it was pointless to even ask them. So again, people only approach someone to ask them for something who they think they could get it from. So if you don't have a certain level of sufficiency within yourself, right reasons to be selfish, right? And again, I'm not saying that there are not wrong reasons for selfishness, but what I'm touching on right now is some of the right reasons for selfishness. Now, how do you overcome the selfishness is another thing. So something else that is needed to overcome the selfishness is you have to ask yourself, do you want to stop being selfish? And again, I'm touching on the negative sides of selfishness. Like, if everything and everybody around you kind of start to tell you this, like if you start to ask yourself, like, man, like, why am I like this? Like you start really feeling bad. You start having a little guilt and things like that. Now it's time for you to start making some self-reflection. And how do you make the adjustment to get out of that selfish mindset? Because the society that we live in, a lot of people gravitate towards being selfish, even when we're kids, right? Especially if you're only child, it's always, it's mine. And we grow up as adults having that same mindset, oh, it's all about what people can do for me. It's not about what I can do for somebody or how I can help them. But you're always thinking about how you can benefit from the deal, right? So again, you have to, if you want to change this, you have to ask yourself, in order to go from that nothing place to a something place with dealing with selfishness, you have to ask yourself, do you really want to stop being selfish? That is a hard question that you have to ask yourself, because if you are not ready to ask yourself that question, then that means you're not ready to give yourself an honest answer. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? You're not ready to give yourself an honest answer. How can you be honest and give yourself an honest answer if you can't even answer yourself that question? Like, if you ask yourself that question and you like, oh no, I ain't selfish. And then you write it down and you like, man, everything that I do kind of is all about me. It's all about what I am going to get out of it. It's all about how am I going to benefit? Like, what can somebody do for me? How the company is benefiting in my favor. Like, am I going to get the acknowledgement from doing this? That's on the negative side of selfishness. So if you are ready to make that shift, right? Because that's a mindset shift. If you're ready to make that mindset shift, that is the first step you have to ask yourself. Do I want to stop thinking like this? Because selfishness is a thought process well before it's an action. I'm going to say that again. Selfishness is a thought process well before it is an action. So one of the things that you have to ask yourself is, where did this come from? Right? How did I become selfish? Maybe it was my childhood, right? Maybe it came from, I didn't really get the things that I wanted as a child. So when I became an adult, I got whatever I wanted, however I wanted it. And that's my view on it. Or it could have been, like I said, you was an only child and you were so used to getting what you want, right? And no shade to anybody's parents that gave them everything that they want. Okay. But what I'm saying is, if you want to get out of the mindset of selfishness so you can change the selfish ways on the negative side, right? You have to ask yourself, why am I like this? Right? Maybe you had some type of trauma in your life. Maybe something happened to you. Maybe you weren't always a selfish person. Maybe you used to say, no, I'm going to see how I can give to others. I'm going to do this for other people. And then you noticed that people were taking advantage of you, and it made you draw back, and it made you say, well, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore because people don't appreciate and value me and what I do for them. So now I'm going to change the turn of it, and I'm going to actually be selfish myself, right? So listen, whatever your reason is, good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You have to know what your reason is to why you became selfish on a negative side in order for you to stop doing that. So maybe you say, all right, I know this about myself. I know that I'm selfish. I know that I don't want to be that way anymore. And I want to take the steps in order to stop being selfish on a negative side, or you might be on the flip of it, right? You might say, you know what? I need to be somebody who starts becoming selfish in a positive way and start putting more time into myself. I need to start investing more into myself. I need to take more time out for me so I can enjoy things in life. I can have more peace of mind. Sometimes, we may have to even say, you know what? I have to say no to you so I can say yes to me. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to take care of you to some degree, right? To some degree, not some, but to enough degree where you are okay, where your mental space is okay, where your emotional space is okay, where you're not putting all this stress onto your life, right? Because of maybe your job, your kids, your spouse, your family, no matter what it is, you may need to take some time out for you. As much time that you may be spending and doing for others, you need to be doing that equal amount for yourself and finding out the reason why you either are selfish in a negative way or finding out the reason why you need to be selfish in a positive way is going to be detrimental to you overcoming your selfishness in a negative way, or you becoming selfish in a positive way. that is what is going to help you to go from a nothing place to a something place within selfishness. Now, go be great. Remember, I always say, don't cheat yourself, beat yourself. Now it's time for my crazy story is, I remember as a kid, growing up in North Philly, over one of my friend's house. And it was right around, my elementary graduation, like graduating out of 5th grade. And I go over to my buddy's house. And, they have those, you have the bed frame and it's nails that are sticking out of the bed frame, right? I don't know why they got them like that, first of all. But me and my buddies, we, jumping on the beds and, play fighting and things like that, having a good time. And I jumps on the bed and I bounce. And when I falls off of the bed, I falls just enough off the bed to not touch it, right? But it was a nail from the bed frame that was sticking out just about that much. And I mean, that thing went into my skin and pulled a couple layers back, down to the white man. I was like, I was going crazy. I'm, crying, it's hurting. And I'm like spazzing out. And I remember, and even though it was very painful, I remember, my buddy's dad, shout out to his dad, for hooking me up. I mean, he's like, Victor, calm down, it's going to be okay. I mean, like now I can laugh at the story, right? But I mean, he was literally just like that. He's like, calm down. I mean, I'm like, oh, my leg, it hurts so bad. And he's like, calm down, it's going to be okay. And I mean, he poured some peroxide on it. Woo! I would have thought it was alcohol. That thing was burning like crazy. I mean, it was burning so crazy, but it finally healed up. I got a crazy scar on my knee because of that situation. But the crazy moment is, remembering that very intricate moment when his dad was like, calm down, it's going to be okay. I mean, I laugh to this day about it. So remember, go be great.
You're in control of how you feel. You're in control. You are the determining factor of your feelings. No one else can control how you feel. Remember, you're in control how you feel. So control your feelings.